Battle control initialized.
Hello there, comrades and cannon fodder. It's Dvoid here. I've got a 1v1 multiplayer game, and this is on Pulverise map. This is a recent one from this guy here, J Megatank, I know him as, and that's the map creator. And they also made a few of the maps I like, and a couple of their recent ones were Overkill and Desert Fight as well. But this one, it's on Pulverise, like I say. I'm not playing in this game. This replay was sent to me, and both players are using Russia for this one. We've got one player in the dark blue up here, and this is kind of a purple colour. And they've sent their engineer straight away with no rifles in front. Now, obviously, his opponent can't get there in that time, so in some instances you're safe. And now look, before your opponent can get there, there's rifles in position. But on this map you can capture the flame tower base defense and these two oil derricks that are close to your base, and there's a hospital here. I don't know about that. I don't know if you can get to the comm centre. It looks damaged anyway. But there's a hospital close to the base, and each base, and a couple of oil derricks. So it's interesting. You get this base defence to start with. So it helps defend your oil derricks, and there's extra view range from it, from the flame tower. Let's just have a look. Two refineries there from both players. And on this map, you've got the green water, of course, and the ore is blue. I like the blue ore. I've seen this on a few maps. I like the way that looks. It's okay. There's the engineer for that player, Fazzar, in purple, going for the hospital. Then shift command to go back to here. We've got a bit of an engagement here. Now, one's got a better formation and one's got the defender's advantage, but the formation takes it and they have veterans. So now these rocket soldiers need to watch it. Because just after the 2-minute point, you should have at least 3 rocket soldiers. Just something so you can help deal with any early scout vehicles. But there we go, the war factory for Fazzar. Unano's got his. There's the engineer for the player in blue. And rocket soldiers for... There's a 4th rocket soldier for this player. Right, so they've got the 2 oil derricks each. Just got 3 harvest ore trucks each, so 4 now, 4 each. And we've got a flak truck. Yeah, it's just managed to escape. They've got very light armour. Bullets from riflemen do damage to them. We've got some scout rifles, look. Here we are. Well placed for this player. Fazzar's got scout rifles there, so any early flank attacks should be spotted. Even if you don't notice them, or because if an enemy vehicle drove past quickly, this rifleman may get a shot off, but it'll be lucky if you hear it. But if you do miss it, keep an eye out and see if if your rifle guard's missing and it's dead. So even if you miss the vehicles or the flank attack that kill it, keep an eye out, and if you see that you got no view range here because this rifleman's dead, you know that something has happened, something's moved past. So in that situation, you would want to deploy a few more rifle guards here, just in case a force moves round and is on the way. Just so you can check what's going on. Don't allow units, enemy forces to move around, you know, and kill your scouts and guard units. That's what they're there for, is to warn you of enemy movements. And we've got an expansion from Fazzar. Let's have a look at the progress from Unano. Building a heavy tank, and have they moved out their first primary MCV, their first conyard, instead of building a second. Sometimes some players do build a heavy tank before they build their second MCV, or a medium tank is better because it takes less time. But this looks like this is a standard build order that Fazzar's using. So he's got his expansion set up nicely. But unless I'm just not spotting it and I'm missing something, Unano hasn't got his second MCV, and they are still also building another heavy tank. So, and the thing is, Fazzar's building heavy tanks now. So, disadvantage of a few heavy tanks is essential that they make use of it. Now, destroying that, his opponent knows where his units are. So, he's obviously thinking, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to do the damage and escape. And there's a scout vehicle for Unano. Can it escape? Yes. It's fast enough for those shells to miss, but it won't escape these rifles. They won't miss. And there you go. There's the oil derricks. Both are gone for Fazzar. He's lost them both. And now let's have a look at the advantages. Is that 6 heavy tanks? Yes. 4. No, it's not. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5, I think. I'm quite far from the screen, but there's only 1. There was 2 for Fazzar. This isn't good. Those heavy tanks will make all the difference, but look at the numbers. The heavy tank's placement wasn't the best, and now there's so few infantry, but that's it. Once those tanks are in position, that's enough now. So, interesting. Very interesting. Unano didn't make good use of the extra heavy tanks. Yes, he was saved in that engagement because of them, but they weren't placed quite right. They should have moved them along the front line completely. There was some unprotected rifles. Their infantry was whittled down. Almost even army value, not much in it, but now Fazzar's got more heavy tanks on the front line. You see, taking a big chance messing with the proper build order. Now they haven't got any heavy tanks at the front line, and the view range alone is enough. Yeah, one player put MCV skip failed, and it has. They've now they have set up now properly. Unano 6,000 army value each. Fazzar's ahead slightly now. And there's the MCV moving out for Unano. We've got another war factory being built for Unano, the second war factory. Now, after the first expansion, that's your first opportunity to build, but you do also need 7 barracks as soon as possible, and Unano has 5. So they've not done too bad, but I would have 7 before I build that second war factory. I just would, for the sake of the army values and that. Now, fighting with base defences near you and structures view range will give you an advantage, but they've lost their units. It's too late for a base defence now, and Unano's forces are moving around here, but Unano set up that second war factory forward, and Fazzar's been overrun here. This should be running, and you should be setting up your army elsewhere. Have I got there's very little army value now for Fazzar, and why is this not running? It needs to run away. Well, that was a shame. I don't quite know what they were thinking. They may have been waiting for a base defence or something before they moved out. But, oh dear. And if they're in low power as well, it won't be good for them. But here comes what remains of their army. Very few infantry for Fazzar. Tanks going ahead. Now the oh, that's alright, they've got a small crossfire set up, so that's okay. But the tanks need to be in position with so few infantry for both players, and look at the rocket soldier group for Unano. They'll knock out tanks if you let them. Now, yes, we've got an eco transfer, he's keeping an eye on it. Very few units defending. There's nothing here, look, defending the base from a flank attack. Oh yeah, there are these units. But with all this going on, I would doubt that Fazzar would notice if a force moved down here and killed this rifle guard. I doubt they would notice. Let's check out Unano's base. Now look, they've got... Yeah, you go, look, there's a force there. You just have to send something to check. I mean, even when I've been struggling myself, I've sent a rocket soldier, a tank and a few rifles before. Very little, but you've got to send something for the distraction value and eco raids. Look at the flamethrowers. They do great work when you use them right, the flamethrowers. You see with the tank up front, it's just all you need is a bit of time and look at he's moving his tank so well. But yeah, that's it. Without a vehicle now, they're doomed. Flamethrowers can't do much damage to heavy armour. Right, and there we go. Fazzar moved forward with an expansion and was caught by this caught them. That's bad luck. If that is home... No, it's not his home base, MCV. So it's not the end of the world, but... So they know this force is coming, but they're in trouble. They've got 2 tanks. And look, they're going for the ore trucks. Very good. And Fazzar's sending these forces. They are right. These guys have backed off and these guys are chasing them. Now they know where they are. This force has broken off and going for here. So they've broken off, breaking the army apart and going for multiple eco raids. 3 at the same time. Very good. And let's see what Fazzar does with, let's see, army values. 17,000 to Unano. 10,000 now, 9 to Fazzar. He's given it up. Right, I would like to have seen him try and hang on a bit longer just to see how he dealt with multiple attacks. Because personally, I wouldn't quite have given it up at that point, but, you know, I don't blame him. That was actually a good game, though. So, well played to both players there. And it's also showing this map off as well, Pulverise. It's a fairly recent one, like I say, by J Megatank, I know him as. And I'll go through the graphs and charts for you for this game. And like I say, Unano's a good player, like, so Fazzar did well. I was quite impressed with that. They did well. And I'm going to add 1 or 2 more replays to this post. One of them I'm sure of, and the other one I'm not so sure, so it'll either be 1 or 2, but I'll go through the graphs and charts and that first. There's the army graph, look, and Unano had an advantage there by quite a lot. So like I say, Fazzar did well. Yeah, they did very well, I think, to fight so well like that. It was good. So let's move on to the earnings graph. You see, that's even, like, overall, like, you know, there's a spike there for Unano and 1 for Fazzar. You know, it's fairly even earnings. Army, about 6 heavy tanks and a decent force of infantry. No, basic force, you know, less than 40 rockets, 15 odd rockets and less than 40, it's 36 rifles, that is, I think. Let's have a look at the combat chart. It's a 17,000 army value for Unano at the end, not bad. They lost 2 structures and Fazzar lost 13. Unano killed 171 units, Fazzar killed 177, so it was very well done. A good even fight when it comes to unit against unit. And Unano destroyed 50,000 credits worth of his opponent's assets. Fazzar destroyed 41,000 credits worth of his opponent's assets. Their opponent's assets, I should say. No support powers in effect. And production, Unano's building another war factory. Defences, infantry and heavy tanks, yeah. Got the solid build going. Economy tab, we've got 2 oil derricks. Unano hung on to both oil derricks here with the base defence. And they've got 8 ore trucks left. They earn 85,000 credits, and Fazzar earned 78,000 credits. And they've both got 5 grand in the bank to use. Unano is at 29 actions per minute. Fazzar was at 73 actions per minute. There's your scores, 502 to 392. And there's all your tabs, graphs, charts and stats. So I hope you enjoyed that game. And like I say, I'm going to add a second replay to this post. There was a couple of spectators for that one. So let's have a look.
Terminated.
Let's see a relevant one. This is one of the players from the last game. This is a reasonably recent replay for maybe roughly a week ago, I'd say. So this is a 1v1 multiplayer game on Kosovo map, and I'm playing using Russia, and my opponent is one of the players from the last game using Russia also. I'm in red in the top right, and my opponent is in that same dark purple colour by the looks of it. Let's just check. No, it's a dark browny colour they're using, and I do like this map Kosovo. I've featured it in plenty of posts, but different, like usually in my games, I send 3 or 4 rifles straight towards the enemy oil derricks or the enemy base or something, whereas on this map I've got a specific pattern of movement for my rifles and engineer at the start. These 2 rifles here escort the engineer, and this guy makes sure no enemy units are going in a dodgy route to go round behind or whatever. This rifleman makes sure these guys can group together here. Now, if I see any enemy units with that rifleman, I'll group these guys together a little closer to the barracks so they can bunch together more. You know, I don't want them getting killed one by one as they arrive. There's my opponent, clearing out barrels and moving to a few places. They're actually capturing the central oil derrick, and they've got it. I've taken the oil derrick closest to me. Now, this is the most contestable central oil derrick, and it's usually the second one people go for, so that's different to usual. I usually like to let people capture this one, then, as it's the closest to their base, then move on to the central oil derrick. That's why when I go for it, I usually take it off them. Here we go, we've got an engagement. And I saw there was not a lot of shots coming back at me, not much firepower, so I pressed on. Noticed they haven't captured it yet, very good. So I sent a rifle to the back, and these guys where they can't... Oh, look at the engineer. These guys where they hopefully will intercept enemy units trying to kill my engineer. Got to keep him properly guarded. And there you go, I've captured 2 oil derricks now. My opponent's got the central one. They've still got enough units to protect that, look. More than enough. I've taken losses myself. And we're both about to place our war factory. I'm a few seconds ahead. But my opponent is guarding this oil derrick. Guarding the one they've captured. And I've got 2. But their engineer did escape, so he's on his way, look, to the far corner. Right, we're nearly at 3 minutes. I'm getting me rifle guards into position. A few at home base, look. And we have a grenadier drop being brewed. Sometimes I do like to use one as early as I can. But if you do a grenadier drop at this early in the game... Look, my cash is at 1 credit. So, and I've just got that. So I need to pause my infantry production, obviously. And now the credits are pouring in. And now I've got my 3rd one, so it's not that much of a delay on my production there by training those grenadiers. And I'm using the APC to scout and to screen this. And now let's have a look, see what my opponent can see. So they've seen that I've got a vehicle, obviously, and they've caught a glimpse of my units. Look, what's happening here? My opponent got him. Now another rifle's on its way. And he's got the view range. He stopped my grenadier. That was good. I mean, my engineer. Very nice. That was just lazy. On my part, laziness. I mean, I did have my engineer covered, but I went to clear another rifleman away and expose the other side. And that's often what happens. Don't let riflemen try and engage your engineer, and when you kill them, don't protect that side, because it might only make you vulnerable to a rifleman behind you. You know, it's tricky. There's my APC, it's moved down here for a grenadier drop, but my opponent's got that. And what about their engineer? Have I missed something? Let's check army. No. They've got their engineer. There. Oh, and mine was shot by a rifleman, but they've got theirs okay. And now I've got my grenadier drop working. And we have 5 grenadiers going straight for the power plants, and my opponent's built a flame tower straight away. Not built, placed. So they had that ready. That was excellent. Now this is drawing fire. I've sent my grenadiers on a little shift command maneuver to target this power plant, and then the APC is just going to have to die and buy as much time as possible. Look how close that was. Very close. So they did well to stop that. Nicely defended. I'm placing my own flame towers now, so I should be adding flamethrower troops to my build, my production queue for my infantry. Once I've got a flame tower, then you can train flame troopers, and I've spotted this straight away, and I'm thinking my opponent has sent an APC with an engineer in and just forgotten, and something's caught their attention. So I'm going to destroy that while I can. Now they could turn around and destroy the barrels, but it only takes a second to knock it out. So there you go, they're gone. I've got my expansion set up, eco transfer done. And our early army values, I'm at 14,000, my opponent's at 9,000, 10,000 now. Yeah, my opponent's got their expansion set up here. They need to get 2 or 3 of these ore trucks over here, or at least set up another expansion. Now I'm moving forward to the centre. My opponent sent a tank on an eco raid there. That's quite nice. And I've spotted it with this. Let's see if there's any reaction. Yeah, look, I've spotted that. $13,000 value, army value to my opponent, 18,000 to me. Here we go, we've got an engagement. And I brought my home base MCV, my construction yard, I brought it forward. I'll be placing a refinery, there you go. And that tank has been met by plenty of defenders. Just knocked it out. And here we go, we've got an engagement here. My tanks are well out of position, badly, but I've got them there now, so I'm soaking up all the bullets, and my infantry can go to work. Overrun the enemy there. Was lucky that I got my tanks into position in time, and that I've got these troops close to the front line, because I can just roll them up now, and any forces that engage before this point of the enemy will be lost and wasted, because you can't fight that without an army. You see, they should have fought behind the base defences here, the whole lot, and they've got no army value basically, and my MCV's close behind. Got cash though. And now they can't stop that. I would carry on here at this point, because these guys, I'd have to defend that and get my primary production here, and then I move all my ore trucks and my conyard away from here as well, and try and set up here or something. So I'd at least try, but you know, it's just every player's different. You know, sometimes if it's over, there's no point carrying on. It probably was, but there's the army graph. It looks fairly even until at this point. It's like just after 5 minutes my opponent starts to fall behind a bit, so yeah, that did it. And earnings graph about equal, except my opponent was slightly behind there and then ahead there. Not bad. I expanded better than my opponent earlier, I think. And there's my finishing army. I'm going to guess it's about a 15,000 army value. 16,000 army value dead on. I didn't lose any structures. My opponent lost 4 before they gave it up. And I killed 111 units. My opponent killed 75. I destroyed 23,000 credits worth of my opponent's assets. My opponent destroyed 14,000 credits worth of my assets. No support powers in effect. It was too short, that game. I'm just building the basics. Heavy tanks, refineries. Got some cash left each. I've got 6 ore trucks and I hung on to 1 oil derrick at least. I earned 55,000. My opponent earned 53, so they did okay for their earnings. I was at 31 actions per minute. My opponent is got a high actions per minute count. Is at 71 this time. There's our scores, and there's all your stats, graphs and tabs. Hope you enjoyed that game, but because it was a short one, I am going to go to the third game.
So
And
noted.
let me think, this may have, but yeah, I think this was the last game
Battle
I played
control
myself.
initialised.
So this is a 1v1 multiplayer game, and we're on Scorched Earth for this one. I'm using Russia and my opponent's using Germany. We've got a spectator, and this was one of my games today. This was fought not long ago, actually. So I'm in red using Russia in the bottom right, and my opponent is in the top left using Germany, and they've got this sort of pink kind of colour. Right, and Scorched Earth obviously is a map I know, and I like this one. My viewers should know that. And I've got my first couple of rifles are going to go here, so I can see if my opponent's on their way to my oil derrick, and make sure I'm clearing out the oil derrick on the way past. Make sure it's, you know, I'm just escorting it. Obviously, you know, your opponent can't get units and across the map that quickly, but you need to be ready for the moments when they can, you see. You know, you've got to be ready. And I just always make sure my engineers are escorted well. And I bumped into the enemy there, and there's their engineer. And my troops, these guys I could have got troops there more quickly by sending the first one. But I can see the medics, but that was it. And now he's defending the engineer. So, yeah, I've lost a few rifles there, but I've captured my oil derrick. My opponent's capturing theirs, and I thought, well, didn't have that strong a presence, but so I moved forward and went for the hospital as well. But I've got this rifleman waiting there in case my opponent sends an engineer to capture this. I've got a few rifles back at base, minimal amount of guard units. And there you go, I've got the hospital now. And there you go, I'm sending my rifle guards out as they're trained. There's one going here. This guy, obviously, for this edge of the map. This guy's at this edge. Now, these two are escorting the engineer, making sure he's safe as he goes for this oil derrick. My opponent hasn't sent anyone here yet, either to scout or to capture. This engineer's just stood there, so I wonder. I'll keep an eye out, see what happens there. So I've checked out the entrance, look, and on shift command he's moving there, because your opponent can snipe at this oil derrick from the sides. You can get enough view range to just see the oil derrick, and when it starts to get captured, your opponent, as long as you can see a bit of the oil derrick, you'll see it flashing. You see there, it flashed red. That's my colour, and your opponent will see that. So when they see that, and they've got a unit here, they'll start to blind fire at these couple of cells here, and obviously your engineer has to be there if it's capturing, so you've got to watch out and guard the edges. The engineer's inside the Ranger. Here we go, I've got the view range of the hospital, and they've got the excellent view range from the Ranger, so they'll have seen what the situation is there. Now my opponent's got a light tank now. Right, as I was moving these guys with the engineer, I've seen that they're moving forward. There's their engineer, he's following behind, they want the hospital. So I knew I had to get into a position and engage while I've got that view range bonus. So I decided to take the risk and send the APC around, look, to target the engineer. And I just gave him an attack command, so it was lucky to kill it, but died on the way out. And when they started retreating, obviously I can see them, but I didn't engage in time. They got away. And if I was to follow them, I'll move into their view range. Here, look. So I missed my moment there for that counter-attack. I should have had that group of units and just engaged, because I saw that they had plenty of rockets as well. So my riflemen would have overwhelmed them quite easily. So it was, I shouldn't have let them off with that. It was a mistake. But they're going to have lost They're vehicles, I'm guessing, which means their engineer's dead. Yeah, they've got a light tank. Just built one. They've got 2 war factories. Now, they've got 2 refineries and 2 war factories, so that's an interesting build order. Very interesting. They've gone for 1 barracks, but yeah, that's interesting. Let's see how many I've got. I've got 4 barracks now. That's not good. My army mass is going to take off, and theirs won't. I'm at 10,000 army value. They're at 6,000. And I've got my 5 grenadiers inside the APC. And I've built my first heavy tank. Now, if you move out with all your units and leave very little here, you need something to warn you of the enemy's approach, look. Like these guys, you see. Now, let's see if there's any reaction. And because I told you earlier, like I've mentioned in previous posts as well, you might not have even noticed that. And I've got no reaction. I didn't notice it. So you need to watch and keep an eye out. And the only warning I'd have got, because I've missed it, is that the rifleman's not there anymore. But my enemy's attacked before I've noticed, because my attention was there, look. With these light tanks trying to move past. But now I'm reacting to these light tanks at least. There we go. And that also told me to get an eco transfer underway. You see, I've still got riflemen ahead, warning me of the enemy approach. You have to. And there's my grenadier drop, the APC. It's just moving up behind the enemy. 16,000 army value to me, and my opponent's at 10,000 army value, and I'm still dealing with this light tank attack. It's drawing my attention, and it's actually drawn a fair few of my units. So this engagement, I've got a lot less than I would have had. But my opponent with light tanks, no, it's not a good choice. Now, he has won this engagement, but no, it's not a good choice, light tanks. At least kill it, yeah. And I couldn't even escape, look. And I didn't want to send those tanks in because they'd have been wasted. And I thought, I'm going to get overrun here. So I've actually fallen back with my tanks and what few rifles I have left, and my MCV. They're all falling back and regrouping with these guys here. There's my grenadier drop. And they've got defences set up straight away. They've done no damage to their power at all. Yeah, nothing. So I lost that grenadier drop. I did order the APC away, but it got destroyed. So yeah, the grenadier drop was just got like wiped out, sadly. And it's happened a couple of times today. So that's not good. I'm building refineries because I need an expansion here. And there you go, I'm moving my MCV and my opponent's attacking. And they're falling back straight away because they're wise to. I've got the buildings view range, I've got the base defences, I've got more base defences coming, I've got a good army, I've got infantry production. They were right to fall back. And their army value is just falling behind. Their cash is bad. Yeah, their build order, very interesting, but with 1 barracks, you're doomed. It's got 4 war factories. Let's see. Right, now they're getting power plants. They're in low power. I didn't put them in low power with a grenadier drop. They put themselves in it. But 4 war... Now they're not. They've replaced that. They've got 3 construction yards. Here we go. Here's my attack. And I'm getting my tanks up front. They're using their ore trucks, which if you have to, you have to. It's often worth it in the right situation. Usually you want to keep your ore trucks out of battle, but now I've got tanks, you see, and they haven't. You know, I've held off at the right point and my opponent called it. And as I was doing that, I had this force on its way to attack in case of any expansions here and here. So they did, you know, they popped at the right point. They were probably right to. I didn't realise they had so little army value left because I was surprised. I was like, what? But, you know, they'd fed everything into that and lost their army completely. So they were right to call it there, sadly. But I'll go through the graphs and charts and that for you. Here's the army graph. And they were a bit behind, but there's some losses here early on that they never recovered from. And they were increasing in army value at about the same pace, almost, as I was. But with one barracks, you're doomed. You can't fight under those conditions. Just one barracks. 2 war factories would have been better, and build barracks instead of the other 2. You know, it's just a better idea. So there's the army graph for you. My opponent didn't recover from that early point, but there's the earnings, and there you go as well. Look, they didn't quite recover from some setback early on. You know, they were doing okay, but yeah, no proper recovery. And there's my army. You know, basic amount of stuff: 5 tanks, couple of flamers, some troops. 16,000 army value. I didn't lose any structures. My opponent only lost 2, but that's when they called it. I killed 72 units. My opponent killed 104. I destroyed 23,000 credits worth of my opponent's assets. My opponent destroyed 18,000 credits worth of my assets. No support powers in effect, and we have a war factory in production for me. I'm about to place it, actually, my second war factory, and I've got these 3 barracks up here. You see, I've got 4, 5, 6, 7. You need that before a second war factory. You need your 7 barracks as early as possible, and I've still expanded. Look, and this also will help protect this. If the enemy tries to expand there, I've got defences and production and something I can actually expand my build radius around, and it denies it to your opponent when you do that. But a second war factory is about to be produced, you know, and then I'll be working on probably a radar dome after that, and power supply. So economy, I've got my both oil derricks here, these 2, and I've hung on to the hospital as well. I've got 7 ore trucks. I earned 62,000 credits. My opponent earned 46,000 credits. And we've got some cash left each. I was at 27 actions per minute. My opponent was at 19. Very sedate pace. And there's our scores. And there you go, stats, graphs and charts. I hope you enjoyed those games. If you did like what you saw in those 3 replays, give us a sub and a like. And thank you very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves. And until next time, goodbye.
Battle control terminated.